boundaries are how we teach people to respect us and to interact with us. So I think it's one of the most important things that I can teach you, that you can learn about, is look at yourself and understand who you are and what your needs are. Then be able to communicate and state what your needs are when you're interacting with other people, whether it's friends or coworkers or family, let's say. So basically come up with your ideas on how you like to be respected and treated. And when you notice that you're someone who's crossing over a boundary into a place that feels uncomfortable for you, right in that moment have the awareness to reestablish and restate and set the boundary. And also, if someone is not willing to abide, I guess the word would be, by that boundary, there has to be a consequence. And the consequence is usually that they can't have a relationship with you and they can't interact with you. And that should be pretty as immediate as possible. So I was reading a post the other day, and it says boundaries are how we teach others to respect our energy. And it had this example. It says, not a boundary. And it says this, quote, "There is something wrong with you and I'm not taking it anymore." I mean, this is a very normal thing that most of us will say when we don't understand how to state a boundary. But the boundary would be more effective saying this: if you continue to yell and not allow me to speak, I won't be communicating with you anymore. You see the difference between the just stating wildly, like there's something wrong with you, as opposed to saying, I won't allow you to speak to me this way. And if you continue to speak to me this way, we won't be able to interact. So if you want to come back and speak to me in a way that's respectful and not offensive and abusive to me, then we can have a conversation. That's a boundary. Then it's that person's choice, the other person's choice, on how they're going to either accept that boundary or not accept that boundary. If they don't accept your boundary, then they can't be a part of your life. It's that simple. Here's another boundary. I'm not a superhero. I can't do everything. Why don't you understand? And here's a boundary. Going forward, I won't be able to have dinner ready on Fridays with my schedule. Okay, so I think when we're in a space of when somebody's upsetting us and there's that trigger, it's so funny, somebody said to me the other day, like, you don't want to flash. I thought that was a funny way of saying it. But I think when it's hard to catch in the moment to set the boundary. And often what people do is you either say nothing and then afterwards you're furious and angry, or you say something very reactive in the moment that's just about the feeling that you're having that's not setting a boundary, and then there's this wild, chaotic conflict. So I think having boundaries is a practice, actually. It's something that you practice all the time. And it just, you're listening to somebody and you're having a conversation with somebody, and if someone crosses a boundary, you'll know it because it will feel uncomfortable. You'll get an emotional sensation. And at that point, I think it's important to take a deep breath, relax your body, and quickly state that you're not feeling like it's appropriate or comfortable, that there's something off, and that you can't allow someone to either treat you in a certain way, behave in a certain way, speak to you in a certain way. For example, if your friend constantly is showing up an hour late and you never say anything because you're afraid of conflict and you're a people pleaser, and then you just allow that. When you allow that, you're reinforcing a pattern. And so you're basically saying it's okay with me that you show up an hour late. And that's, think about that value. That kind of states that that's kind of low self-worth when you really think about it. So you have to catch yourself and practice it. The next time they come or before they come, say, I need you to be exactly on time. And if you can't, then we just can't hang out. anymore. So I just want you to know. And then when you first set a boundary, if someone else, the other person, isn't used to you setting a boundary, there will probably be one of two reactions. One, that they'll not like the boundary because they're not comfortable with boundaries and they're used to not having boundaries with people. By the way, sign of an unhealthy relationship and an unhealthy person, and they will flare up and have a lot of conflict with you about it and try to beat you down to not having that boundary. Or they'll be stunned by you setting a boundary and correct themselves because they actually are able and willing to play by the boundaries. So practice it every day, practice setting boundaries, practice using the words. You can interact with friends and just play a little boundary practicing game. Every day it's a practice, and just notice when you start to get that shift of feeling like triggered, and then take a deep breath, relax your body, and then state something that protect yourself like you would protect a really good friend. And that's what self-esteem and self-worth, self-care, self-love, and self-awareness comes in. That's what that is. And that's it.